I've always said that Tony has led these guys in just a way that I could never, personally do. That takes a certain type of guy. Tony's done just an incredible job. I mean, I can help to organize outings and stuff, but when it gets right down to it, and you need somebody that can connect with these guys and give them a chance, Tony Parker's just unbelievable. And I want to thank you, Tony. Tony.
Hey everyone, welcome back to On the Road of Recovery. We have Tony Parker here from Cleveland, Ohio. He came to share his story. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. All right, so we'll get going from the beginning. Can you start with your childhood? Can you tell me what it was like? Did you grow up with both your parents? How was it? Did you fit in at school? That kind of thing.
Childhood, I had 4 brothers, 2 sisters. 3 of the brothers are in recovery. And the rest of the family didn't get inflicted with what we have. Childhood I had a great childhood. I mean, my mom was divorced early on. And we moved from Georgia to New York, where my mom remarried. I was 6 years old at the time. And I was kind of excited about it. A new man in her life, and he was in the military, and it was just kind of neat. After he got out of the service, I got to ride around with him on a milk truck, and then we moved to Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio turned out to be kind of an amazing thing because my dad trained racehorses, thoroughbreds. So as a child, I got to grow up on the racetrack.
Oh, that's cool.
And I kind of thought that was a lot of fun. They were strict. I was always the black sheep of the family. I was always the one doing the wrong thing. For the most part, I was. So I left home at 15.
Oh, okay.
And went to New York. And, I tried school up there with my aunt. But naturally, that didn't work out either because I had friends in New York from when I was a child. Mm-hmm. And we were all troublemakers. Mm-hmm. I always had a kind heart, but I was the type of guy that we were just always into something. And, I had a friend of mine that liked to steal his mother's car when we were 15. And we would do stuff like that, and came back to Cleveland and to visit. So I brought my friends back. And unfortunately, Tony went with Tony all the time. And that was my first experience over in New York with alcohol.
Okay. So do you remember how it made you feel then?
Oh, it made me feel like Superman. It made me feel like I belonged. It made me feel like I could do anything. That bulletproof. And just and really all it did was make me I didn't notice it, but made me more of a punk, made me more of a bad guy.
Right.
And it's not who I really wanted to be, but I fit in well with that crowd. And I met a girl in school. She was a cheerleader. So I thought that was cool. I always wanted to have a cheerleader girlfriend. She was pretty. But you're not pretty at 16 if you're pregnant. So I got her pregnant at 16. Now her family was not about, abortions. I had a shotgun wedding in Doraville, Georgia. Had a baby at 17.
Wow.
So the moment I got married in a little town called Doraville, Georgia. And during that time, I hooked up with a roadie down there, did sound systems for a band called Atlanta Rhythm Section. So I remember he brought me into that. They were a local band like Michael Stanley is in the Cleveland area. They had some hits out, but I'd go around taping wires. And we did some Southern jams that we went on. And they paid us $100 a week and all the marijuana you could smoke. And which I didn't like marijuana, but I drank a lot.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun being 16 years old and being able to be around bands, you know, like Leonard Skinner, and some you would see them, and I mean it was a lot of fun
Yeah.
because I was more of a hippie then,
Right.
and so I got to do that for about 6 weeks, and then I moved back to Cleveland and brought the girl back because I had to do something. I'm going to have a child coming, and moved back to Cleveland, moved in a little trailer park.
So you moved back to Cleveland as kind of like taking responsibility?
I was trying to act as if an adult.
Okay.
And although I thought I was doing well, I'm just a child.
Right.
You know, really just a child.
Right.
But I could survive. I was a survivor, and I could work. I have a real good work ethics, and so jobs were never a problem. I got a job on Thistledown Racetrack, so I went to work there. We had the baby at 17. I had a little boy, Billy, and it was just a beautiful thing. I mean, I loved him to death. I thought I was a good father. And this poor girl sat home. I had moved into an apartment by now, still working at the racetrack. Hooked up with some old buddies of mine, and we'd go out every night to the Agora in Cleveland when it used to be in a different spot. And we'd go down there and get in fights and get locked up, and I wouldn't come home. I'd pick up other girls. So I was a terrible husband. So she put up with me for about a year, and of course went on vacation back to Georgia to see her family. Never came back. Had ended up meeting another young lady at the Agora. She was a year or two older than me. She was just like the perfect girl. And we ended up together for another year or two and got married. Had my daughter, Melanie, and my life changed. I started a business, and I did petroleum maintenance. I started my own company, and that's gas stations and trucking outfits and quick change oil places. I did all the construction and repairs for that.
Okay.
And became successful. Ended up, we moved to Hudson, got married, moved in her family's house, her mother, and life was just perfect. She had a good job. I was working, and for all my 20s, they were just all blessings. My daughter got into showing horses. We bought motorhome, went traveling. We should go to horse shows, and she was in 4-H, so she'd win Summit County. Then we'd go to states, she'd win states. And she did that every year she went. And so we were very proud of her, and life was good. We had the motorhome. We'd go to Columbus to the state, to the state fair, and,
Right.
and local horse shows, and just did good. And we just lived a very good life. My work later, my daughter was probably, 15 or 16, probably 16. I started going out of town a lot, and I'd be gone longer and longer. My drinking.
Was it for the same business?
It was for the same
Okay.
business.
So you're just going out of town.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was, I met up with, I was staying at hotels. I'd take my crew with me, and we'd all stay in hotels, and they would go out and go to strip clubs and everything, and I'd go to the bar at the hotel. I met an entertainer there, a woman that sang there. And I enjoyed talking to her. We'd talk during the show, after the show. And she used to tour in a rock band all over this country, and we ended up hitting it off. So needless to say, I'm doing the wrong thing now. I'm not coming back to Cleveland, not sending my wife back my money, and my thinking was she was okay. She makes plenty of money. It always worked out. Money wasn't a problem. But this was a problem.
Right.
Because although I wasn't in love with this woman, she introduced me to cocaine and another lifestyle. And it was off and running. And I remember I would drive up there on weekends or go up because I had come home and told my wife on her birthday that I'm leaving her. On December 11th, I had the nerve to come home, go in the bedroom, and tell her I'm leaving you. And of course I got the natural response, because you're telling this to a woman. Okay, go. Now I'm freaking out, because us men, we're wusses. So I'm begging her and pleading to come home, and I had done a lot of damage. I physically never touched her. Mentally, I might as well punched her right in the face, because verbally, when I'm drinking, I can do some damage.
Yeah.
And she did the right thing, but I chased her for 6 months, and I finally just decided, I'm just going to move on. And of course, it had to do with alcohol and drugs, cocaine, powder cocaine. And I went back to the house in Hudson all alone, and it started getting darker, because I'm running out of money. I could go out and make a large sum of money quick, but my work, I'd go do it, then lay it down and sit down and be the show off and partier and drinker, and ended up over by my parents where they lived. There was a biker bar there that I always went to, and started partying with them, which got even more crazy. And I went through a couple girlfriends, and life was just really spiraling out of control. I put on a good front, because I was a life of the party.
Right.
I go to the bar as a life of the party. I had fun, but cocaine kept me going.
Right. So it was drinking and then cocaine.
There was never drinking. There was never cocaine. It was always the two of them.
Okay.
So I wouldn't, and I'd get to the point where, I do lines of cocaine off the bar and get kicked out. I'm not, just stupid things. You don't get kicked out of biker bars. You just don't. They'd always let me back in the next day, but they can't have those consequences, and fighting and trouble.
After all of this, would you say that by this point you were obsessed with getting high?
I was obsessed. I was addicted from when I was in Detroit, when I met this girl. Within a week,
wow,
I depended on it.
Gotcha.
So it was that quick. Really, what got me started to the heavy drinking was the fact that I had a panic attack one day going to work. And I says, I went to the doctors and tried different medications, went to Cleveland Clinic. So that's a real important part. I'm glad you asked that. So there was a phase of time where I went through that. He'd give me Valium, which I didn't like, didn't help. But I found out when I drank and did cocaine, I was okay. I felt, that all went away. So I found my medicine. Basically, that was my biggest trigger. I could have, I think, pulled it together if it wasn't for the mental illness. And mental illness is a very long word, really, when you break it down, because mine was probably situational. So if I would have managed the proper way, it would have been just taken care of,
right,
medically.
Right.
But I found a medicine that worked.
Right.
And, I loved it. So the obsession, I mean, right off the rip, the obsession was there. I put down coke for a little bit in the beginning, but it just wasn't the same. I wasn't going home at 2:00 in the morning when the bars closed.
Right.
It wasn't. But anyhow, I just kept going and going to the point where I was in a house by myself, and I was starting to run out of money. I'd sold all my equipment.
Were you still working?
I'd work now and then. It was the motivation goes away. When you have to when you wake up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and are trembling, and you have to get a bottle of vodka and drink it. And then if I didn't have the cocaine, I would just wake up. I'd drink that. I'd feel a little better instantly. And I remember emotionally I was a wreck. I could just sit there and cry. Grown man. I'd just sit there and cry. Couldn't believe what I had turned into. And I couldn't believe it. But this went on for a while. I think I sold everything out of the house. Wasn't nailed down.
Wow.
And I said, I got to get some help, I got to do something. I had my daughter, what made me really think about getting sober, like I'm in my, well, how old was I then? Probably 30. I remember my daughter coming home from college just to check on me. She knew I was at the house. And I remember curled up on a ball. I weighed about 140 pounds. And I'm skinny, and my hair is down to here, and I just look, and you can imagine, I mean, just how I looked curled up in a ball, all strung out and sick. And I remember her looking over at me. I remember a teardrop falling. I perceived it to be a teardrop, and I know it was because I kind of got a glimpse of her leaving the house. And it was a teardrop that fell on my cheek or my face somewhere. And I had to hold it together. But when she left, I just started bawling. Just tore me up. So the first thing I did was go get high. I could always get money some kind of way.
Right.
I went and got high, and I happened to run into an old friend of mine that I went to school with, who went through a program, Stella Maris in Cleveland. And he saw me around, knew I was struggling, and grabbed me up. Said, hey, how you doing? I kind of told him my story. And he says, want to go to an AA meeting? I said, what's an AA meeting? He says, where you go and sit around and talk about our problems. Somebody's leading. Listen to them. You might learn something. They were telling me about detoxes and stuff like that. So I went to detox. Went to first I had gone to the racetrack. There was a reverend on the racetrack that works with all the grooms that work there and jockeys and trainers. And kind of took me under his wing and said, I know a place I can get you in. And I says, I'll try it. He said, well, there's Harbor Light in Cleveland. I know him down there. I can get you in detox. And I said, okay, but it's going to take a couple days before I can get my stuff together. He says, what do you have? I said, well, I got clothes out there, but I don't know if I can get out there anymore. I guess I don't have anything anymore. From having everything.
Right.
Everything, the motorhome, the house, everything. I just gave it all away, it's just. The only smart thing I did a quick deed on the house and signed it over to my ex-wife. So I was happy that I did that.
Yeah.
But on the way to detox, I decided, well, there's a little bar on Fleet, I'll stop there because once in a while I could get what I wanted there, and I'll go into detox. And I went there, got drunk, got all coked up, did way too much. I fell out, overdosed on coke.
Wow.
Ended up in Marymount Hospital.
Wow.
And the next day I ended up going to detox at Harbor Light. And, it was an eye-opener. There was a woman there that's in AA that was running it. She took some special time to talk to me. And she probably took special time to talk to everybody.
Right.
But I felt like she was trying to help me.
I'm sure she was.
So they said, well, after this, you get to go to the Freedom House, which was the Keating Center afterwards. And I says, no, I think I'll just go to those AA meetings. I went to, so some of those, and I enjoyed it. So I says, okay, I'll go. I'll go.
Good.
He says, you can always walk out if you don't like it. So I remember I got out of detox, went down and sat on Harbor Lights front steps for about an hour waiting for him. Bars down the street, and I'm thinking about it. And so I went there. And funny thing was, it was a week before that, there was another bar that I got in a fight with a biker that should have killed me, but I was real quick moving around, and he would have killed me. But we got in a fight, and the police came and arrested us, and of course the two cops I partied with did cocaine and drank with. So of course they let me go. But this guy belonged to a motorcycle club you don't mess with. You don't. And there was a couple issues, and I had a drug dealer that I also ripped off. So I'm in some trouble at this time. But I remember walking in the front door of the Freedom House, and somebody always greets you when you know how it is when you walk into recovery. Somebody's there with open arms. So I walk in the door, I got a bag of underwear and socks. That's what I got. I think some white t-shirts the Reverend gave me, and here's this guy that I got in a fight with.
Oh.
Standing there, and he was probably 4 or 5 inches taller than me, but looked like a lineman for the Cleveland Browns. And I think this is gonna hurt. This is really gonna hurt. I said, he's just gonna eat me up. And I knew it's my stomach. You almost get hit with a car.
Mm-hmm.
That's how my stomach felt.
Mm-hmm.
Walked through the door, and he grabs me and hugs me, gives me a big hug. And he says, I'm glad you're here. I said, really? Thinking because he was going to say he was going to do something to me. And he said, no, I'll help you, man. I've been there. I said, yeah, we were both there last week, right? He says, yeah, that's how we got here. And so he took me under his wing and showed me around. And it was like, I still get goosebumps about it. Cause, you run into somebody who thinks they're going to kill you.
What are the chances, right? Like...
So it was a great experience. I did maintenance. I worked with the guys. I did everything. I was the last man out the door when the Freedom House closed.
What is your sobriety date?
July 9th, 1999.
Okay.
Party like it was 1999.
Yes. Yeah.
I ended up working with sober houses and partnered up with a buddy of mine in the he had a painting company. I opened the construction end and worked together for a couple of years, and then Jack Mohawk came to me about opening the Jean Marie House.
Oh. Which
was for men at that time.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So I opened that, I believe, in 2007. And we were there, I think, 2.5 years. And then they told me my services would no longer be needed. They were going to bring the women there. Luckily, I have an angel. Took me and said, find a building. I'll get a building, and we'll do this again if you want. Same way. And that's how that journey started, with me opening the Lantern. And we opened 2010. Just had our 11-year anniversary.
Wow.
And it's been nothing short of a miracle. It's just because you get a passion for it. It's amazing how the program, 12-step program, if you work it,
right, changes
your life.
Right.
And there's a complete change. And I get to run the lantern, work with people, and we've had so many people die, since 2008. It's hundreds, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of emotional, mental pain. I don't sleep at nights now.
Wow.
There's nights that I get 3-4 hours sleep, and that's not poor Tony. That's just poor Tony should take some time for himself.
Yeah.
But COVID hit.
Right.
Now that goes.
Yes.
Before COVID, I got an email. My assistant Garth got an email, and it was a picture 38 years ago. It was even longer than that. I remember getting a picture of my ex-wife, my first ex-wife. I got 3 ex-wives.
I'm keeping up.
Yeah, right. And it was a picture of a woman and a man with real long hair and holding the baby. And it says, if this is you in this picture, you're my father. 38 years. 38 years. Just before my birthday, he flew into the lantern and came to see me. Didn't know I was his father.
Wow.
Didn't know. He thought his stepfather was his real father. And through
So he
a
just
grandparent
found out
dying,
about it.
he found out about it. And so we're very close now. And I've got a granddaughter that's 7 and grandson that's 9. My daughter Melanie is my granddaughter Luna, and she's a little princess.
Is she?
And I get to see her.
Yeah.
My son lives in Boise, Idaho, so it's harder to get out there with COVID. But the kids, all of them are amazing.
That's so
my son's
cool.
wife, my daughter's husband. It's like I wouldn't take away any of the pain I had going through all this, which I owe, I owe. And I deserve that pain, but I wouldn't take away any of it to get to where I am now. I'm so blessed. And working in recovery, if I died at my desk tomorrow, it would be with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
It would. I get to meet other people doing good things like you guys are doing. We do a family group, which is really cool. And, when I see a guy that I haven't seen in 3-4 years, see him with his wife with 2 kids, and they've got a house or an apartment. They're both working and they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing Erin Helms, from the beginning.
Yeah.
To get to the point where she's at now, get to see things at work.
Yeah.
And the number one thing is, I guess I wouldn't have any of that without walking through that door. I believe there's a line in the sand, and we cross that line, but it's a line you can't go backwards. You can't say, I wish I never would have crossed that line into drugs and alcohol, or alcohol alone, or anything. They're all a drug.
Yeah.
But I believe once you've crossed that line, now you're on a different journey. Now you've got to find the journey of recovery.
Right.
And if you don't, the one thing I do know for a fact is recovery works. 12-step program works. Getting my higher power worked. My group of friends today it's priceless. It's just a new life. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that.
So Do you have any words of hope that you would like to share with somebody trying to get sober, trying to get this recovery thing?
Mm-hmm. I sure do. There's help in every corner.
Yeah.
You know,
Just gotta look
Just-
for it.
and if you don't like it, there's always a front door. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tony Parker, for coming out and sharing your beautiful story of recovery with us. Did we cover everything? Was there anything that I missed that you kind of wanted to go over? Or...
I left a lot of bad out, but we all got war stories. You know,
Yes.
There's been a lot of terrible things I did. There's a lot of very good things I've done. But the story it's really family, friends, the damage. I think the people that paid the biggest price are our families. Mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives. They can't sleep. They're up all night, scared to death.
Right.
You know, scared to death. We're out partying. We're out forgetting about them.
Right.
But the price that we pay to get here, you know, has destroyed families. One parent wants to help. The other one wants to shut them off. Let them get help. Breaks up families. Destroys families. We're out there and parents are dying. We're not there for their funerals. We got to remember that if we walk through that door, that's all people want for us. They want to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Because the only time they're happy is if we're in jail,
Right.
or if we're in treatment,
Uh-huh.
or in a program. If we don't do one of those three things, we're underground.
Yeah.
And everybody still pays a price.
Exactly. Well, I really appreciate you
Yeah.
bringing that up. Because
Please
That's so
give it
important.
a try. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you,
out
dear.
and sharing your story. It was excellent, as I knew it would be, but we appreciate the support. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Tell me what's been happening, what's been on your mind. Lately you've been searching for a darker place to hide. That's alright. But if you carry on abusing, you'll be robbed from months. I refuse to lose another friend to drugs. Just come home. Don't let go. If you look into the distance, there's a house up on the hill, guiding like a lighthouse to a place where you'll be safe to feel like grace. 'Cause we've all made mistakes. If you lost your way,